Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Sequel Q&A. My name's Doug. So it's the holiday season, and we don't want to fail our sequel lovers. That's you. So, of course, we got to cover a Christmas classic. And for it, we're covering Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toy Maker, where Mickey Rooney plays a guy named Joe Petto. And it's just weird hearing Petto as a last name with what this movie's about, but this movie's got great special effects because you know why? Because Brian Usna is involved with it. So you know that's going to be there. And I can't wait for Jamie to have to talk about this one. I think he's going to like it more than Puppet Master 5. So yeah, so that'll be fun next week. Man, this week's interview was one that I think it goes to show, and I think you've heard me say this before if you've been here before. If not, welcome. There's so many times I do these interviews. I can only go by an IMDb. That's all for the most part, unless somebody has a website and they have information about themselves, or if there's a bio on their IMDb. But I like when there's not, because I like when I'm surprised. And this week's guest, actor, thespian, the guy loves being on stage, Van Quattro, his story, like, you can only go on so much. I can look, oh, he's like Tom Quinn in Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, which is kill scenes pretty good. And he talked about how great it was working with Brian. And then you look at his other credits like LA Bounty, which he has a great story about Wings Hauser right on the top, because he was asking me questions before I started recording, talking about, oh, how'd you start this? Who were some of your first interviews? Which is so cool. And people take an interest in something that I love. And it's, finding out, people's stories. Everybody has a story, just like a movie has a story. So it was cool that he asked that. So you'll hear like the start of the conversation, the interview, when I'm going to play it in like 30 seconds, you'll hear, oh, it's like mid-conversation. It's because of that. But we talk about LA Bounty, which has the amazing Sybil Danning in it. It's like a badass, like Cobra-esque vigilante, sort of. But yeah, so we had some good stories about that. We also talked about Fight Club. He was in Fight Club. And then he's like a world traveler. Like his stories that were non-acting are like so mind-blowing. He's going to email me the links to his books that are on Amazon. I couldn't find them somehow for some reason, but I'll make sure to put them in the episode notes. As soon as I find them, I'll blast them on all social media, because you'll hear some of his stories, like tastes of some. One involves Patti Smith, who sings I Am a Warrior. And wow, just wow. You're going to love his stories. And he also was on picket fences and shot Don Cheadle. You know what? This guy Van has so many great stories. And I think he was a cool guy, like talking about his upbringing, that he had a rough childhood and just how he sort of like realized it. And it's some deep conversation in this one. I loved it, and you'll love it. Do me a favor, subscribe, like us on all social media, share this with friends, neighbors, relatives. Holiday season, maybe like when you're passing the ham or the turkey, be like, hey, there's a podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Sequel. Check it out, at Sequels Only. And then your grandma will be like, what? Maybe she'll do that. I don't know. But so this is going to be a lot of fun. You're going to enjoy it. And without further ado, here is actor Van Quattro. A little preamble before this starts, so people know who you are and give a little background on you. But so we can start from the beginning. But while you're talking about like Wings Hauser,
how rated is this podcast? How is it rated?
Oh, you can use any word you want.
I tend to leak a few out. Yeah, well, it was interesting because at that I was married to. I was married at the time, and she'd booked a movie with the producer, and it was a small producer over in the San Fernando Valley, and they wanted to see me for this project, and I didn't know who Cole Hauser was, but my wife at the time said, well, yeah, he's kind of a B movie star. He's been out there for a while, and stuff like this. And so at the time, I was just beginning to train with a guy named Roy London in Los Angeles. And Roy was pretty popular. He grew very popular, incredibly popular. He was thanked a lot at the Academy Awards and things like that. He was sort of the acting coach to the.
How'd you connect with him? Did you seek him out?
You know what? It was a friend of mine. I was probably doing a play with, and actually he said, I'm going with this guy named Roy London, and it was myself, Jason Stewart, Dean Devlin, who now runs Electric Entertainment. We're just a few guys in his living room when he first started out. They just said, this guy's really incredible. So we went and we did that. And one of Roy's things was try, be active in your acting. Don't sit back, make active choices, make the character opposite you respond to what you're doing. And if you don't get the response you want, keep going. And so I'm on the set and I'm really nervous because this is like one of the larger roles that I've had. And we're doing this scene and I accused them of kind of ripping off an old James Cagney movie because he wants to put me in this box. And he's aiming a gun at me and he's going, get in the box. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. And he's going, get in the box. And I said, well, and he cut and he goes to the director, he goes, he won't get in the box. and and the director looked at me and he just kind of went, and I said, okay, we'll try it again. And we did it again. I made him work. Which was kind of funny and daring for me at the time, because I thought this thing could go haywire real easy. He could just stand there and go, well, who's this fucking guy and what's he doing? But as it turned out, I kind of won the scene in the sense that I was the one who dictated when I got into the box. And it was important for me
and it gave him something to work with. You being apprehensive is what a person would really be in that situation. Yes. Nobody would just be like,
you're a young actor coming on the scene and this guy that's been around for a while is telling you to get into the box and you're kind of like, okay.
That's true.
And another, when my first TV job was on Remington Steel.
Yeah, I see that as a cab driver in '85.
Well, yes, and then I did an episode in Las Vegas with Pierce and all those guys, and I played one of the bad guys who has a fight with Pierce Brosnan. And we're in the casino, and we're getting ready, and they block out all this stuff, and we do this thing, and I throw a punch to his midsection, and I didn't hit him as far as I knew, but then the director came to me and he goes, well, Pierce was concerned about the punch you threw at him. And I was like, okay, I don't know what to do differently because I don't think I hit him. And he goes, well, just go easy. And I said, okay. And I thought, oh shit, already I'm in hot water on this one too.
That's got to be nerve-wracking. I interviewed Jack Plotnick. He's been in like a bunch of stuff, and he did a little tiny scene with Ben Stiller in Meet the Fockers, and he played the guy that at the car rental company that threw Ben Stiller the keys because Ben Stiller like walks away without the keys, and he said, "Doug, I did not sleep for days thinking about that scene, and if I threw the keys too hard or wrong, and they missed him and hit him in the eye, and then production would be shut down for a month." So there has to be pressure on the people that are working with the stars, because if the star gets hurt, like if you threw a punch on accident and not knowing, you really did give us some damage, they're not going to be able to film for a little bit. So that's got to be hard coming in. I've heard people say that, like when you're a guest star in a show, it is a great experience because you're working with all new people for the most part. But also it could be hard because you're the new kid. Well, that day or that week that you're there.
Anything, I consider the initiation day because it's the hardest. The first day is the hardest. It really is, because you're walking on that set. You've made choices. You want to be as, I don't want to say bold, but you want to be as truthful as possible. And if possible at all, you want to push some boundaries. You want to take the scene to whatever the next level. And it's always a little nerve-wracking to do that, but I think I have found that if I just go in and jump right into my choices and get them out of my head, I'm fine. But it's the first day, where you're meeting and you're going, what are the boundaries here? How does this person like to work? I'm nervous about my lines. Usually, but once you get through that, if you've got a good crew and a good director, it's gold, man. That's where it really starts to churn. When there's that trust and everybody's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're on the right track. We're all on the right track. Let's go. You know what I mean?
So how did it all begin for you, Van? I know you mentioned before plays. So growing up, did you grow up in Texas?
No, I grew up in LA. I was born and raised in Los Angeles.
Oh, you grew up.
I moved here when I was
So you grew up right in the thick of it.
to Texas. There was a
okay.
big actors strike in 1999. That was the year that my son was born, and I had
wow.
I was up for a couple of guest stars at the time. My insurance would have kicked right in again. It would have been gold, but the actors strike hit, and I was just like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I told my my son's mother, my wife at the time, I said, I'm ready to get out. Because I was born and raised in LA. So, all the glory and beautiful skies and everything that everybody immigrates to is, for me, it was kind of a little bit of a dark time in LA growing up. So.
No, I'm sure. Did you have any connections? Like, why were your family, were your parents from there?
No,
or did they come out?
Deeply working class. My dad drove a truck at night, 5 kids in a tiny house.
Oh, okay.
He was Italian and pretty brutal. So it was an isolated, kind of a violent upbringing, So no, it had nothing to do with the entertainment business whatsoever.
And how did you discover just through school, like elementary school, middle school? Did you discover like doing plays or anything?
I was barely showing up at school most of my life.
Yeah.
No, I like to go out. I like to do things. And I was very much into rock and roll at the time. And it was the best time in history for music. The late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s was just in Los Angeles. It was an explosion. So I was on that scene hanging out and watching bands and going backstage and doing this. And my friends always said that I had a knack to do just about anything. I'd always get us backstage somehow and nobody knew who I was, but they just kind of like, oh yeah, okay. And so we'd get into all these antics and fights and this and that. And my friend said, you should be an actor. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, and I think I had just barely gotten my GED. And then I went to I got my high school diploma like 3 different times, to make up for.
Yeah.
But when I was supposed to graduate, I had the credits of like a 9th grader.
Wow.
I just didn't go to school. I was just one of those guys. So I took care of all of that. And then he said, you ought to be an actor. And I tried out for a play at the San Gabriel Playhouse in Los Angeles. And I got it.
How old are you there? Out of high school already? Like you 19, 20?
I was probably 22, 23. Because I went to a junior college in Glendale, and because I'd never played organized sports, I tried out for the football team. And somehow I made it onto the team. I don't know how, but they kind of considered me the mascot. And we won the national championship that year, which was really odd.
Oh my God.
So after that, I decided in junior college to go into theater, which was, if you want to call it that, we just kind of like partied. And then somebody direct a play, and I did a few plays there and went off and did some dinner theater in La Crescenta, which is a little bit north of, it's a little bit north near the Angeles Crest Forest there in Los Angeles. And from there, I backstreet agents, whatever, just knocking on doors, sending out photos. But the trick is I had no idea who I was or what I was doing. Zero.
Yeah.
I had not taken any acting classes at that point. All I did was party at a junior college for a year and a half doing plays. So as far as the business side of the business went, I had no idea. And as far as the consistency of the work and the craft, I had no idea either. I knew that I could strike gold, but I also knew that I could be really bad. you know, and I did not know how to navigate those two things or bring them together at all. I didn't know that hard work meant you get better. Your craft gets better. I thought you either had it or you don't. So it was like I had it that day, and people were like, "Ooh!" And then you do something that was just absolutely terrible, and they were like, "Where'd that come from?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I have no idea." So I didn't have a grip on it at all.
But it's good that you, even though you were in that, like what I did when I was that age, like partying, but at least you had those moments to feel that emotion. Like I'm sure maybe other people in that program were like just going through the motion, going on stage, and then when they're done, it left them. But at least you were sort of thinking about it at that time, like, oh, that was really good. Oh, that was really bad.
Yeah.
But then how did you come to the realization of that next step of like, hey, how do I take this to the next level?
I don't think I really
How did that happen?
I mean, I really had a rough childhood. I really had a rough
you're
childhood.
saying,
so I was scrambled inside. I was scrambled eggs and maybe even burnt on some of the edges. And so I didn't quite put it together. I went to acting classes with Roy. I learned some things in there, but still it didn't stick. It didn't stick. Roy would like, the group leader of the evening would call me after seeing class and go, "You wouldn't believe how Roy was going on about you last night." And I go, "Really?" And it was, "Yeah." And then, and then I'd suck really badly. I just couldn't put the two together. I was too much in my head.
Yeah.
I took it personal. When I was wrong, when I wasn't good, I took it personal. And I thought, I'm just not good. And then I'd luck out and get good. And so I struggled with that a long time. But I was able to capture gold probably more often than not,
And that's perfect for like being on stage. You can't get away with that.
No.
But in film, you can have a great take because everybody has great
sure.
takes and people have bad takes. So it's good to have that. So so you're training with Roy and you're doing plays. What was the idea? Did Roy or somebody approach you about like Remington Steele or like, I don't know if you auditioned before that for any TV or film, but how did that come to be that you started doing that?
Well, there was a big time manager that Roy knew, and she represented a couple of other people in the class. And she was like, "You got it. I don't know what it is, but you got it. I'm going to sign you." And so I was like, "Okay, let's do this." And the first thing I did was go out and dye my hair blonde with a very cheap dye. So it turned my hair green. So my first interview with her, she looks up at me and she goes, "Oh, what'd you do with your hair?" And I said, "What? Nothing." And she goes, "You did something to your hair." And I, "No, I didn't." So I'm turning red the whole time. Anyway, we did it for a little bit. I was so inconsistent and out of control that she ended up kind of parting ways with me. I think the biggest thing happened was a couple of years later. There was this festival in Los Angeles called the Padua Play Festival, New Play Festival, and it was run by Sam Shepard's sister. And they would take all these new plays out of the Los Angeles area, and they would put them on at a festival somewhere in the basin. And a lot of times it was done, I want to say like out near the Lancaster area. I could be wrong, but this time they were doing it at USC on campus, and it was in their yards and in some of their groves there. So this one was. I think it was called "Why Things Burn" by Marlene Gromed Myers, and she's a well-known published playwright. And a friend of mine, Mark Feit, introduced me to her, and she cast me in this play. So we're doing it out there, and these people are watching. And afterwards, this casting director named Rick Pagano came up to me after the show, and he says, "Hey, what are you doing for the next 3 months? And I said, I don't know why. And he goes, well, clean your slate. Give me a call Monday. So Rick cast Picket Fences. He was casting 5 shows back then. He was one of the biggest casting directors in LA. First thing he did was literally like a week later, had me in for a guest star on Picket Fences. I get the role. They call me as soon as I get home. I get the role. I end up in Picket Fences, guest starring, and I'm the character responsible for helping Don Cheadle get off the show. I shoot him with a shotgun in that episode.
Oh my God.
And I have to admit, I did not know who he was at the time. I mean, he was just very kind. He walked in, hey man, how you doing? And I was like, hey, good, how are you? You know, so there was no affectation, or I had no prior history with him or anything like that. He was just a very nice guy.
Yeah, not many people knew him. The big show that he was in, like right after that, maybe was the one which I never knew until a few years ago, the Golden Girls spinoff.
Oh yeah,
he was on that show, the Hotel, whatever.
He did the Hotel Rwanda. I mean, he started to get into some serious.
Yeah, years later, yeah, like late 90s, early 2000s, but like around the time that you worked with him, I don't think he was in anything
right.
big
Well,
yet,
I mean,
so,
he had a job on a TV show. That's all I knew. You know what I mean? Which was like major. And Tom Skerritt directed it. Directed the piece.
Oh my, really?
Yeah. Tom Skerritt directed it, and who else? I forget the other fellow that played Don Cheadle's brother in it, but he was awesome. The episode, CBS wanted to submit us for an Emmy. You know, they said they submitted us for Emmys. We didn't win that year, but it was exciting. It was really exciting, and it was the work. I'll never forget. I got one note. I'm walking in. I've just escaped from prison. The guy that ran from me, who we escaped together, he ran from me. He ditched me. I find him at his brother's house. I kick in the door, and I stand there, and I got this big gash in my arm, and I go, I need a Band-Aid. And Skerritt goes, okay, cut. Hey. And he goes, come here. He goes, and he whispers in my ear, he goes, you are the baddest motherfucker on this planet. All right, now let's do it again. And I got him, and I walked in and I go, I need a Band-Aid. And he goes, yeah. And we rolled from there, and I kind of picked up on where that character was going. But I was really nervous the whole time. I really was. Because it was such a high-profile shoot. I mean, that show was winning Emmy after Emmy after Emmy. You know, it was a high-profile show. Very high-profile.
Yeah.
And the talk on the softball fields the next... Yeah, I mean, everybody was talking. They were going, oh, man, your performance last night. There, so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that. And but I didn't know how to capitalize on it. I just let it sit. You know.
Oh my gosh. But then from there, then that guy connected you with that. He cast you for that. And then how did like the other roles come up? Because we talked about Remy and Steele already in 85, 315, The Moment of Truth, you played Plainclothes Cop, then 87, Wheeler and Panic in Griffith Park. So there are like, you're working every year. And then I would say, I didn't watch Panic in Griffith Park. I watch LA Bounty. But I would say LA Bounty, man, that's a big role. Your role's like,
it was, yeah,
huge.
It was. I was drinking a lot at that time.
Yeah,
but it was a big role. And I think that was through my wife at the time, who knew the producer, and I auditioned for it, and they they gave me a role. So I did start to pick up on things that worked for me. You know, I started to develop ideas as an actor, but I really have to say, you know, after Fight Club, which I was in a room with Fincher and maybe 6 other people, 7, small crew, Ed Norton, we're doing the scene, and it was awesome. It was like working on an indie set. Yeah. Everybody was just like, hey, man, that's great. Yeah. Fincher would be sitting there in his T-shirt and tennis shoes, and he'd go, yeah, that's good. Let's try it again. I like what you did there. Let's do this, you know. Um, I think, Doug, you know what? I think it was years and years and years of validation that just kept sticking. And that combined with my dream, I was able to come to a point where I can actually say, and I'm talking about now, where I can actually say,
Yeah.
I work and I know what I'm doing. I enjoy my work and I'm always open for suggestions because it's all collaborative. But I feel like I can go to work. I feel like I can go to work.
Yeah.
And it was a long haul. When I first moved to Fort Worth after the actors' strike, um, my wife wanted a divorce. So I was here 6 months in Dallas, not knowing anybody. Gave up on LA, and she goes,
Yeah.
I want a divorce. And we had a 1-year-old son. And because of the way I was raised, I thought, I'm not going to be a vacant dad. I'm not going to be a brutal dad. I'm going to be here for my son. So what I did was I quit acting for 10 years. Quit. Just to be every day at my son's door, knocking on the door saying, can I see him for 15 minutes today?
That's great.
So I did that for 10 years. I watched him grow in school. I went to every event that he had. At one point, about 10 years later, I started to think, wow, what would it be like to get in? And I had some friends say, well, try it. And I was like, I don't know, man. But I auditioned for a play over here, got to play. Within 3 years, I had a Best Actor award in the Dallas Film Critics, DFW Play Theater Critics Best Actor, Best Written New Play, a play I wrote, a one-man show. I'd sort of done more than I ever imagined I could do in the theater world, but that was still my cushion. You know, I stayed there, and I think I wore my welcome out, at least for what I wanted to achieve. I stayed longer than I should have. Then last year, about a year and a half, maybe a year and a half ago, right after COVID, I said, I'm not doing theater anymore because the theater scene just got too crazy. Everybody was canceling everybody, and it was like, you know, you open your mouth the wrong way and you're being canceled and people are picketing your shows. And I said, I don't want any part of that. So
wow.
I said, I'm going to focus on my film work. And I've probably booked
and you're busy. Like the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You have a lot of things on here the last couple of years.
Yeah. So that's what I'm looking at today. And I'm telling you, I'm just starting. That's what it feels like. I'm just starting.
Nice.
You know, it's kind of exciting.
Well, yeah, there's some people. That's what acting is. If you think about it, it's really hard. It's very rare that you have somebody that is like in a ton at every age of their lives. Like there's like these ebbs and flows. So this might be Van's time to shine. But to be honest, there's a lot of actors that get to that. You have to have a look. So whether you have that look in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, whatever age it is, that's when your time to capitalize is. And you see it with a lot of people that are in every area. You see an actor that is a certain look, and it's like, wow, this is the guy for the next X amount of years. He's going to be cast as the mayor, the judge, the cop on all the guest starring roles. But one thing I have to say about you in like those 80s and 90s, like definitely like the two that I watched that I remember you most from are like Silent Night, Deadly Night 5. And when I just watched Alley Bounty for the first time, I would say like your eyes. I don't know if anybody ever said that, or casting director or manager. You have like very expressive eyes.
Yes.
It's something. Like when they zoom in tight on your face in LA Bounty.
You know, they say the eyes are the window of the soul. I believe that.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was ready to completely share what I had inside. So those things that you saw were not the full artist. They were, I don't have a problem looking anything and anybody in the eyes these days. I think back then, you know, as an alcoholic, you know, you always got some shame you're carrying around. You're carrying around extra baggage. And if you can weave that into your work somehow and get away with it, that's what I always felt like. It's like John Lennon said, when you're crippled inside, that's one thing you can't hide, in one of his songs. And I thought to myself back then, that's what it was. I was hurting really badly inside. I did not know that the world needed to see that. So I kept a part of it hidden. Now I don't give a flying fuck. And not only do I not give a flying fuck, but I give enough of a flying fuck to do my best and show the world, like, this is me now. This is it. And this is not only it, but you're going to get this also. Because I'm starting right here. And if you let me go there, I'll go. That's why I'm here. That's why we're all here, to try to push it.
Yeah.
Push that level. And not just to rattle nerves or anything, but to push the parameters of humanity. That's all. Those people that are
it's a film is. That's
deeply,
art.
Deeply alone in the darkness of their rooms are those people that are incredibly, incredibly joyful. Not here, but here and here. Yeah. That's my mission statement. Now, if that plays, I think it's starting to play out a little bit.
Hey, if you believe in it, you can make it happen. You can will things into existence if you have your mantras that you say, or no, that's totally true. But I agree with you. I would say most artists, comedians, people that put themselves out there, entertainers, they are somewhat of a tortured soul. Nobody wants to, for the most part, people don't want to hear a song about, how somebody's life is so great. You want to listen to Billy Joel talking, the song that he wrote just weeks after he tried to kill himself in the 70s, when he tried to drink that floor cleaner or whatever. You hear the torturedness in his voice on The Stranger, on that album. No, you're 100% right.
Yeah. And it's been a long goal, and it's been a lifetime desire of mine, to be able to use this compass of a body to try to bring things to life, And
you're going to do it. How'd you come about choosing Dallas? That area, just on the map?
Fort Worth was where my son's mother was from initially. And we had come back for, some holidays and things like that. And Fort Worth is pretty much a very sleepy town. It's a conservative, sleepy town. When I visit there, whenever I would have a chance to visit there, it always reminded me of Glendale, California, like when I was growing up. Main Street, not a lot of people, not a lot of distraction, not a lot of the world creeping in. And Fort Worth was kind of like that. And so I considered, for my son, I didn't want to raise him in LA. And I thought he might be able to get a kind of homegrown childhood. He might have a better chance for something like that in Fort Worth. And that was the decision that we.
Where's he at now? Is he still in Texas? Is he still in Texas, your son?
Yes. He last year he just graduated UT Austin. He's down in Austin, living in Austin. And the funny thing is he denied it his whole life. I said, "Don't you want to get into the film industry?" "No, Dad, no. In school, and he played football and did some of that stuff and ran around with frat boys and stuff. And I'm saying, okay, all right, cool. You don't have to, no problem. I said, "Do you want to act?" He goes, "Dad, I don't want people watching me." Okay. So about halfway, he gets into UT and he has to transfer in mid-semester because out of the junior college there. And so he transfers in. The only thing available is geography. So he goes, "Okay, I'll major in geography." He wanted to grab a chance to to graduate out of UT. So he took it, and he ended up with a 3.7 grade average in geography.
Wow.
And I was so proud of him because he just took something he knew absolutely nothing about, probably had no desire whatsoever. And he made gold from it. But now he's hitting the pavement down in Austin trying to get jobs in the film business. It's in his blood.
Oh, he
It's
is.
in his blood like you
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
believe. And it just boom.
What was it? What was it like when you moved? When you moved there in like '99? Austin's not too far,
No,
right, from where you're
no.
at?
2.5
So like,
hours,
was
3
there
hours.
anything like? Oh, it is
Mhm.
that far. Okay, but do you remember going there back then? Like, what was the scene like then? Because now it's like what Portland
Yeah,
was in the '90s. I lived in Portland for a few
yeah.
years, but from what I hear from people, like Austin is like what Portland was net '90s,
I'm
2000s.
glad he's down there because it's probably,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
cool.
probably the most open-minded city in Texas for sure, by a long shot.
Nice. Oh yeah,
By a long shot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
and
Yeah.
he likes it. You know, it's crowded. It's probably just more of the same of what you had experienced. More of the same.
Yeah.
So he's digging it, but now, like I said, he wants badly into the film business, and he's not quite
That's
sure how
great
to
that
do it.
he transferred in.
Mhm.
I thought your story was going to be that when he transferred, there was only one class available and it was
I
acting,
know.
because that happened to Robert Hayes. That's what happened to
Is
Robert
it really?
Hayes. Like when I
Yeah.
interviewed him, that's what happened. He's a California kid. His dad was in the military. They moved to a base in Nebraska when he was like 18. He was like so pissed off that he like his surfboards were wasted now because he had to live in Nebraska. They were only there for a year. So he transferred like mid semester. I think he ended up going to UCLA or USC or something. So when he was doing his classes, there was nothing available but acting. And then from obviously the rest is history, that he took the acting classes and he fell in love with it. But that's so great that he took geography, 3.7, and then now
Yeah.
he wants to be like dad. He wants to follow into the footsteps. And there's a big scene there for whatever kind of creative arts he wants to do.
There is. He was really concerned when he first came out, and he felt pretty isolated because he did not know anybody in the film department there. He did not have any training whatsoever. So it was like, Dad, what do I do? And I said, well, you just
Yeah.
start looking, you become a PA, you start doing whatever you want to do. He wants to produce and, maybe someday direct. And so, and he's kind of got a little foot in now, he's got a foot in the door,
Nice.
and I'm happy because he doesn't feel so sort of outside of it all, you know.
You got to give him your tips from when you used to get backstage. Whatever tricks, the gift of gab that
I don't know what I did, man.
would really help out. But
I can't tell you. I looked like somebody. I think they all thought I was somebody. So.
yeah, I think it's a combination of that, because me and my wife get that. Like whenever we go places, people always like open up to us and talk to us at bars and everything. And same thing, not backstage, but like I could really get into anywhere, like whenever we go anywhere. So maybe you just had that look that people wanted to talk to you. People have it.
I know. I have no idea, because I could be a real jerk too.
When you get backstage, but before that, you got to be nice until you get there. But it's good nowadays with filming wise and having a dad at his disposal that has chops. Like when he wants to film something, I'm sure if he asked dad, you'd be in it.
Absolutely.
But it's all about that's what I've learned, that I wish I can go back in time, because I like doing filming and stuff. Not nowadays with 2 kids, it's hard and I have to make time for it. But when I was younger and I used to shoot stuff, I used to just like shoot something and then like not finish the project, shoot something, not finish. But nowadays, I think there's such a great opportunity with like cell phones, the way they could shoot. And the ability for like rental equipment places. Like there was like maybe like a couple of those growing up, but now it seems like there's more and it's more affordable. But it's all about just finishing a project, because you know what's going to happen. The next one you do, you're going to learn from your mistakes from the Like the first time I interviewed, like you asked me before we started recording, like when I first talked to Jerry Minor and like Jason Kravitz, like the early people are like Lance Kinsey from Police Academy. When I go back and listen to him, I'm like, what a moron. It's not that I was saying dumb things. It was just that I wasn't as confident and my editing skills weren't as good. So you hear like some of the different things. And sure, with filmmakers, even like a David Fincher, maybe like when he was shooting music videos, because that was his to directing. Maybe when he went back, if you watch one today, he'd be like, what the hell did I do there? Or what the hell did
No,
I
of
do with
course.
this? So it's all about just.
But the one thing that I tell my friends regarding what you spoke about is a half-finished project will not teach you anywhere near as much as a completely finished project. You've got to
100%.
finish. I've had 15 stories I've been writing, and they're all just in pieces. Finally, I've got four books on Amazon. I've got 2 more that I haven't published.
Really?
Yet. I'm finishing things.
Nice.
I'm seeing them to their fruition. I'm not letting them sit.
What kind of books are they, Van? What kind of stories
The
do you write?
first 3 are autobiographical.
Whoa, I got to check that
And
out.
I've done probably a lot more than you could imagine just by fucking up. but I fucked up in great places. London, Greece, and I was just this kid from Glendale who ran Main Street in his bare feet. And I had a dad who didn't know how to sign his name, but I wanted to get out. I wanted to get out. So I busted out and I just went out and I kind of raised hell in a lot of places, but that was me. I had to.
Nice. I got to check them out. No, that's cool that you did that. Writing, I think it's a hard craft because you're kind of like with yourself. And a good thing, it's great because you're not depending on someone else to finish the project. But in the other hand, then it's only you. That's held accountable.
Yeah, and you're
like I've written scripts with my writing partner, and it's great to have someone else to be able to be like, "Hey, we're going to write this week," and you have somebody that is like your checks and balances. That's so great that you wrote 4 books.
My first book was about when I sold everything in 1982. I mean, everything. I didn't have much. I had a Volkswagen van, and I lived in Charlie Chaplin's maid's quarters in the Hollywood Hills, down below.
Whoa.
Yeah, because the people that owned the house at that time, they leased out the room underneath. And I met a girl.
Were the people that owned Charlie Chaplin's house? That? Were they anybody? The people that owned Charlie Chaplin's house, were they anybody?
I don't think so. I think they were at the time what you called very affluent yuppies.
Okay.
But they were great. I mean, I partied a lot in that place. If they only knew,
Yeah. So you sold everything out of the van?
Because I met this girl at a party and she was English, and I thought, if you know the Beatles, I want to talk to you. And so she said, well, why don't you come to London? I was doing a play at the time, Mr. Roberts. And after the play, I said, okay. And I sold everything to go there. When I got there, she was like, oh, hi, I didn't think you were coming, really. So I ended up staying for like 2 years. And I met up with Ava Gardner, Jill Bennett. I hung out with Charles Gray. I hung out with these amazing people that I just happened to stumble upon for 2 years.
Oh, my God.
And that's when I came back and I started going to class with Roy London. But again, I found myself in situations. I was this dude from California who found himself at the Royal Ballet watching Baryshnikov, dance, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? In a good way.
That's insane.
In a good way.
Yeah, no, totally. Oh my God, that's awesome. So no, I have to look those books up. I'm sure you wrote them under your name, right?
Oh, yeah.
Van Quattro.
But they're risque. I wouldn't, they're not for kids, I suppose.
I won't read it to my my 3-year-old.
Yeah, they might laugh.
4-month-old.
And go, oh my gosh, you did that again?
They might.
They might get a chuckle out of it, but I tell on myself a great deal.
Yeah, no, it's good. You have to be honest, and then people feel that when they're reading, and they know.
Some appreciate it, some don't. Believe me.
Oh my God. So Van, I have to ask about. This has been so much fun. Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, the toy maker. So I interviewed Brian Usna.
I don't remember how I actually booked that thing, but I remember Brian was awesome. I liked him a lot. I don't remember if that was like through my agent or through some kind of connection. or what. But it was, we just shot the one night on it.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I enjoyed it. I was much younger, as you can see in the picture. Uh, yeah, I mean, there wasn't a lot to do, but it was fun. I liked it. Is he still directing?
So when I talked to him, he was still like writing. He wasn't directing anything, but yeah, no directing.
Okay.
But he's a storyteller. His story is pretty cool too because he grew up. His dad was military based. I don't know if he was in the military or he was like contracted by the military to do stuff, but no, he was definitely a storyteller. I think he's the longest interview I did. It was an hour before he arrived into doing film stuff, but no, he was like a big hippie, sold all the stuff, owned like an art store in
cool.
North Carolina,
Yeah, cool.
sold all the art supplies to like Duke and North Carolina students. Really? Like, no, he was very, very interesting. But no, I guess that wasn't his son. His son played Lonnie.
See, I only met Conan the kid, the mom, and
probably that's it, right?
On that, yeah, that's all I worked with.
Yeah, the kid was William Thorne. He wasn't really in much after that, but what a freaky scene! Like he walks in on you and Jane, and then the kid opens the door, which, man, I couldn't imagine. As a kid, I had no fears of anything, but now having kids, I would like get so nervous hearing that my daughter opened the door in the middle of the night to open up a package. But your scene was kind of cool the way it was done. And Brian's known for that in his career. All of his movies have like really cool special effects, which this movie has. And when he directed the fourth one, but yours is cool when the thing wraps around your head and it's just neat looking.
And then they said, you're going to get the poker in your face. And I was like, all right, let's do it.
Oh, yeah. So one question I like to ask people before they go, obviously we talked about like you're growing up and everything, but when it comes to like on set, did you grab it? I know you sold everything in 82, but from when you started being in film and TV, did you ever have any keepsakes? Did you keep any scripts? Did you keep any?
Oh yeah, I've got
like, I don't know, mementos.
Not very many. I've got the original script from Fight Club, which was the working script.
That's awesome.
No, I can't say that I have. I'm not that kind. Well, I mean, I collected baseball cards, but I'm not that kind of a person, that especially now as I'm getting older.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, now that I'm getting older, I mean, I might, if I get the opportunity, get something to give it to my son. I've got.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you could see that on the wall there, but there's that picture. See that up in the corner?
Yeah.
That's Jill Bennett, and Jill Bennett was a major stage and screen actress in England, and she was married to John Osborne, the playwright, who John Osborne had Academy Awards.
Oh wow!
If you look him up, he's just he changed the history of English theater. But I was hanging with her when I was in London. So this is from the Royal Court when they did John Osborne's play Time Present when it premiered there, and it's signed by Jill. And so that means a lot to me because, Jill and I were pretty close at the time. So I kept that over the years. But, most stuff, I was too reckless. I lost it. Patti Smith, I saw her in concert, one of her first concerts in Los Angeles. And we were backstage with Iggy Pop and Lou Reed. And she had, somebody handed her a T-shirt that said, "Who the fuck is Patti Smith?" And I go, "Oh, man," I was talking to her. And I said, "I want one of those." And she goes, "No, there's only like 4 of them for the band. I'm really sorry." So we talked a little bit more. And of course I was drunk and like, "Hey, wow, let's go." And then she goes, "You know what? You look like my brother. And I'm going to give you this shirt." So I had her "Who the fuck is Patti Smith" T-shirt for a while. But again, who knows what happened to it? I've had things. So to answer your question, I've had things, but I sort of lost them through time.
Yeah, sometimes it's like, when are you going to look at it again? Like that's what some people say when I ask them that. They'll have like the end of shoot, like shirts, they keep scripts, but You know what? Of all scripts to keep, Fight Club's a good
is.
one. The working script
Oh,
for that.
I think so. It's got the original notes and, a lot of revisions and, yeah, I was really proud of that.
Yeah, just one more question. I'll let
Sure.
you go, Van. This has been great. So Sybil Danning, obviously at that time, even like Wings, they were both like B movie stars. But man, that movie is so, I really like that movie. Like not genuine, like it's so bad it's good. I really like her as an act. I haven't watched a lot of her movies. I saw like Howling 2, but like not a lot of her like action ones. And man, she is just a stunner.
I guess she was kind of her and what's her name? Gloria, the one that works with John Cassavetes. What's her name? But anyway, weren't they kind of the original lady sort of badasses?
Sort of. I would say that you mentioned that, and I'm sure you know her sister, like Cherie Curry. Yeah. Her sister, Sandra, I interviewed her. Her movies in the 70s, I didn't even know it was a genre, but she was in a bunch of slice and dice movies, revenge movies, like the bad guy did something to her or killed her husband, and she would kill them all. And there were some pretty cool movies that I never discovered unless I would have chatted with her.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
They were pretty cool, like slice and dice. But I would say 80s wise, I would totally say those two. Like definitely Sybil, what she did in those movies. I just think she's 70.
Yeah, she's still around.
Or maybe a little bit older.
Remember,
she doesn't.
I just remember looking at her and going, that chick is rocking. Oh,
yeah.
I just remember every chance
she looks like she'll kick your ass.
I was just like, hi.
Yeah. When she peeks into your car, and she's ready to take you out. But
it was great.
Oh man, Van, I'm happy we connected. Wish you nothing but the best, and I'm going to check out your book because
dude, they're quick, they're easy reads.
Cool.
They're in the way it's written. Emotionally, they're kind of tough, but I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to revisit, I got a couple of projects going on in the first quarter that I'm excited about.
Okay.
I got a couple of movies that are coming out here, like next month. 5,000 Blankets is coming out. And also a movie called Out of Exile, which I'm very excited about. It's a movie out of Oklahoma, and I think you'd really like it.
Talk to you soon. Best of luck.
Peace.
That Van, he's up there with like a handful of people I would say like the most interesting, because everything that's off the IMDb that I don't know about, like his stories about like just traveling in England, all over the world. And he, like he said, he had the gift of gab. And hopefully he can pass it along to his son, because it's helpful. The way he was able to always get backstage growing up in LA, he just knew what to say, and he has a familiar face and those eyes, those piercing eyes. You make sure you check him out. Well, you'll see him in Silent Night, Deadly Night 5 in the opening scene when he gets killed by a toy. Spoiler, not really. It's the opening scene of the movie. But yeah. So much fun. Love talking with Van. Like I said, his books, whenever I get the link to them, I'll put them in the episode notes and on our website, right on the landing page, sequelsonly.com, so you can see it there. But yeah, so your homework, Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toy Maker. You can learn about Joe Petto, Mickey Rooney, who a listener of ours, my buddy Rob Schnitzer, I became friendly with just through this podcast. He told me Mickey Rooney was protesting the first movie, like all those people picketing, saying like, "Oh no, don't kill Santa, don't make Santa Claus a killer, you're gonna ruin Christmas." Mickey Rooney was one of those. 4 movies later, he's like, "I want in." So don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast, follow us on all social media at Sequels Only, and don't forget to check out our website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.
Good night, guys.